All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on SQL. You might not know it, but this language is the engine behind so much of our digital world. Think about your favorite apps, the biggest companies out there, they all speak SQL. It is, without a doubt, the universal language for talking to data.
You know that feeling, right? When your streaming app suggests a movie that's exactly what you're in the mood for? Or an online store just happens to show you the one thing you were thinking about? It feels a little like magic, doesn't it? But it's really not. The secret is actually pretty simple. It's all about knowing how to talk to these massive collections of data, these databases. It's about framing the perfect question to get the perfect answer. And the language that makes this whole conversation possible? Well, that's SQL.
So let's get down to it. What exactly is SQL? And what makes it the go-to language for databases everywhere? Okay, so SQL stands for Structured Query Language, and it's the standard for talking with what we call relational databases. Now, don't let the term scare you. Just think of them as huge, organized collections of data, kind of like a library of interconnected spreadsheets. And SQL, it's the librarian. It's the communication bridge. You've got a question, the database has the answer, and SQL is the language that lets you walk across that bridge and get what you need. To really get a grip on SQL, it helps to think of it less as a single tool and more like a complete toolbox. Inside, you've got different sets of tools, and each one is designed for a very specific job. So let's open up this toolbox and see what's inside. So inside, we've got three main trays. First up is DDL, or Data Definition Language. This is your construction kit. It's the set of tools for building the actual structure of your database. Think of it as the architect. Then you've got DML, Data Manipulation Language. Now this is the one you'll probably use the most. It's for working with the data inside those structures, retrieving it, changing it, adding more. And finally, there's DCL, the Data Control Language. This is your security guard, basically. It's all about controlling who can see what and who can do what with the data. All right, let's grab our first tool and actually build something. We're going to use DDL to lay out the blueprint for a place to store our information. So here, we're using the create table command. And if you look at it, the syntax is actually pretty easy to read, right? We're telling it to create a table called students. Then we just list the columns we want: a student ID, a name, a major, and the year they enrolled. We're also setting some rules. See where it says primary key? That's super important. It just means that the student ID has to be a totally unique number for every single student. It's what makes sure we never mix up two different people.
And just like that, this is what our command creates. Notice, there's no data yet. Just the structure, the container. We've essentially just built the empty shelves in our library, all perfectly labeled and waiting for books. That's the real power of DDL.
Okay, now for the fun part, the main event, really. We've got a table, it's filled with data, and now we want to ask it some questions. This is where DML comes into play, and specifically the most famous SQL command of all, select.
To do this, let's use a really simple employees table. As you can see, it's got an ID, a name, a department, and a salary for a few employees. Pretty straightforward.
Now, imagine your boss comes to you with this question. It's a very typical, very clear request. The answer is sitting right there in our data. So how do we translate this simple English question into SQL?
Just like this. This is the absolute bread and butter of SQL. You can read it almost like a sentence. Select the columns you want to see. In our case, name and salary. Tell it from which table to look. That's our employees table. And then where you want to apply a filter. We only want the rows where the department is sales.
And boom, the database takes that command and in an instant gives us back this perfectly clean, concise answer. It found Alice and Charlie in the sales department and gave us back only the name and salary columns we asked for. That right there is the fundamental magic of SQL.
Okay, so getting the right data is awesome, but sometimes the way it comes back isn't perfect. We might need to clean it up or make it a little more precise. So let's look at a couple of super useful keywords that give us a lot more control over our final results. So sometimes the column names in your database, like name or salary, are a little vague for a report, Well, SQL has a super simple fix for this called an alias. By using the keyword as, we can just temporarily rename a column in our output. So name can become employee_name, and salary can become annual_salary. See how much cleaner and more professional that result on the right looks? It's a small change, but it makes a big difference. Here's another super common situation. Let's say we just want a simple list of all the departments in our company. If we just ask for the department column, we get this. Notice how sales and IT show up twice? That's not a clean list. It's technically correct, but it's messy.
So how do we fix it?
Well, the solution is just one simple but incredibly powerful word: distinct. We just add it right after select, and we're telling the database, hey, filter out any duplicates and just give me the unique values. This is so useful for things like building reports or populating a drop-down menu on a website where you only want each option to appear one time.
And there you have it. The result is a perfect, clean list of every unique department. All it took was that one keyword, distinct, to turn that messy, repetitive list into exactly the information we were looking for.
You know, this quote really nails it. SQL is the tool that lets us wade into these massive, messy oceans of raw data and pull out clean, structured, actionable information, insights that we can actually use to make smart decisions. It really is the engine that drives the modern world. So there you have it. We've just learned the basic grammar of data. We know how to build the containers, how to ask good questions, and how to get clean answers back. You have the key. So the only thing left to ask is, what questions are you going to ask?